Hello, students. You are all welcome to this lecture. On this channel, we'll be providing mathematics lectures, electronics, instrumentation, and the like. Now, if you are new on the channel, do subscribe to the channel, like and share the video, and then when you subscribe, YouTube will notify you when I post another video, interesting video that you want to watch. Thank you. Right. Good morning. So today we want to discuss small aspects in mathematics, and that is converting fractions, decimals, and percentages. We want to talk about converting fractions, decimals, and percentages. First, we want to know that decimal, fraction, percentages, they are equivalent of one another, and one can be converted to the other form. Any of those three can be converted to the other two easily. And that's what we are learning today. Now, we have examples on this, how we can do that. Right here on the screen, you will see a few examples here. We want to change a fraction to decimals. We have 5 divided by 7. 5 divided by 7 will give us 0.71. How did we arrive at that? Now, since it's a proper fraction, the numerator is smaller than the denominator, what you do is to introduce a 0 to the numerator. If you introduce a 0 like this, you have something like 50. That 0 is imaginary. You will not actually write it there, but you imagine that as a 0 there. Now, if there's a 0 there, then you will say 50 divided by 7. 50 divided by 7, since you introduce imaginary 0 and the original number is actually a proper fraction, it means the answer is going to be less than 1. So if the answer is going to be less than 1, it's going to start with 0 point something. So 0 point whatever you get in the division now is what we are going to have. So 50 divided by 7, that is for 7. You can get 7 times, remain 1. The remainder is 1. So you write 7 down. When you write 7 down, it means remains 1. Out of this 50, there's 1 remaining. From the 1 remaining, you will imagine that the 5 is no longer here, and then there is 1 left. So we now have 10. So we can now say 10 divided by 7. How many times can we find 7 from that 10? We have 1, and that is the second one you have here in the answer. And then if you want to continue to many decimal places, after these 2 decimal places, you will still look at the upper number, the numerator that you imagine that is now 10. If you take 7 out of that, to remains 3. So you will change this one also to 3, so the number becomes 30. So we now look at how many times will you find 7 from 30. So that's the next number we are going to get here. And that will be 4. That is 0.714. Now, 4 times 27 is 28. It means out of this 30, if you take 7 out 4 times, you will have 2 left. So you will see, imagine that this 3 is no longer there. Then you have 2 now. That's 20. The number becomes 20. Then you say again, 20 divided by 7. Then you look at how many times you can get 7 out of 20. Obviously, you can get it 2 times. And that will leave it as 14. That will be 14. So if you take 14 out of 20, it will remain 6. So you turn it to 60. So we can say 60 divided by 7. That is, how many times can we get 7 out of 60? Obviously, you get that one 8 times. 8 times. That will be 56, and then it will remain 4. So this number will now become, it will no longer be 60. The remainder, you put the remainder, which is 4. Then you can continue like that, on and on like that. If you still want to add more decimal numbers, you say 40 divided by 7. That is, how many times can we get 7 out of 40? And that will be 5 times, which is 55. 5 times. So that is it, on and on like that. Now, when you have it this way, you will now realize that you have a long line of decimals. So from here, you can approximate. If you want to approximate, like for instance, we want to get 4 decimal places. This number can be approximated to 0.7143. This 8, which is the 5th one, will be approximated. You will not start approximating from the 6th one, but from the 5th one, because you are looking for 4 decimal places. So you go a step higher than what you are looking for, then you approximate from there. So if you want to do that, this number will become 7143. That will be the answer to the original problem that we solved. So the original problem can be approximated into 4 decimal places as this. Now, you will realize that we have changed the form of the original question, the original fraction. So we want to return it to where it was before, so that we now write only the answer now. So what we had there before, it was 5/7. And now if you want to approximate it to 4 decimal places, you can now write it as 0.7143. And that is it. Now the second example here is 3 divided by 8. 3 divided by 8. That one, we follow the same procedure that we follow in the first one here. And the procedure is, it is a proper fraction. The numerator is larger than the denominator. Now, what you do is introduce 0 into the numerator. That means the answer you're going to get will be 0 point something. The answer is going to be less than one whole number. So, you now say, how many times can we find 8 out of 30? That is 30 divided by 8. You can obviously find it 3 times. 3 times. Now, with that, we can continue. If you find it 3 times, that is 7 times 4 will be 28. The remainder is 2. So you turn that remainder into whole number again by adding 0 to it. If you add 0 to that, then you have 20 divided by 8. How many times can we find 8 in 20? 20 divided by 8. How many times? You can find it 2 times. So that will be 3, 2, and the remainder will be 4. So you cancel these 2 and put 4 there now. That will be 40. 40 divided by 8 will be 5. So the answer will be 5, and that ends it. So the final answer will be 0.325. 0.325. So that is just by the way of explanation. 3/8. It's not 0.38, but 0.325. If you want to approximate, for instance, to 2 decimal places, we can approximate this. If you are looking for 2 decimal places, then you will start from 1 step higher than 2. That is 3 digits after the decimal point. 1, 2, 3. So you start approximating from the 3rd digit after the decimal point. So if we approximate from here, we can convert this 5 to one whole number because it's up to 5. So if you convert that to one whole number, you now add 1 to these 2. So the answer will be 0.33. So the final answer in 2 decimal places will be 0.33. All right. Apart from that, the next one, the 3rd example is 4 whole number 5/7. This is a mixed fraction or mixed number. We have 4 whole number, then we have a proper fraction, 5/7 with it. Now we want to convert the 5/7 to fraction, to decimal, rather. Now the 4 whole number will be standing first as your answer here, then followed by a decimal point. Then whatever you get in the division of 5/7 in decimals will follow the decimal point. Now to do that, you will introduce imaginary 0 to that 5, make it 50. So we now say 50 divided by 7. How many times can we get 7 out of 50? We get it 7 times. So that's the answer. And 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 7 is 49. So remains 1. So you turn that one into an imaginary 10 also. Imaginary 10, so that you divide it once again. How many times can you find 7 in 10? 1 time. You write that 1 down. Then the remainder will be 3. That 3 remainder, you come back here, remove the 1, put 3, making 30. How many times can you find 7 in 30? 4 times. You put 4 down. Then that will be 7 times 4, 28. there will be remainder 2 out of 30. You now turn it to 20 again. How many times can you find 7 in 20? You can find it 2 times, and that will be 14. Remainder will be 6. So you remove these 2 again and put remainder 6, 60. 60 divided by 7. How many times can you find 7 out of 60? 8 times. And it continues like that. That will be 56. Then there will be 4 remaining. If you do it once again, you put 4 here. How many times can you find 7 out of 40? 5 times. So on and so forth. So now, if you are looking for instance, if you are looking for 4 decimal places, you will come to the number higher than 4. That is 5 digits. Then you approximate from there. We approximate this 8, then it become 1, then it goes, we add 1 to these 2. So these 2 will turn to 3, while the other numbers will be removed out of that point. So the final answer will be 4.7143. And that's how fractions are converted to decimals. Now, what about converting fractions to percentages? Converting fractions into percentages is also very interesting. Now, what we do is you multiply the fraction by 100, and then you add percentage to that in the answer. So let's look at this example, how we got 43% here. Now we have 3 over 7 times 100. So if you want to multiply it out, we have 300. We have 300 divided by 7. 300 divided by 7. Okay, let me put the decimal symbol there. So 7, you now say 3 times 100, 300. 7 times 1, 7. So you have 300 divided by 7. Then from here, you now say is equal to, you now compute the answer from there. Now, 7 out of 300, you start from 3, you cannot get 7. From 30, you can get 4. Okay. From 30, we can get 4. And then from 30, that will be 28. So the remainder will be 2. In 20, from 20, you can get 2 times 2. Then that will be 14. The remainder will be 6. Then you add a point. Then begin to add 0 to that remainder. 6. So that will be 60. How many times can we get 7 out of 60? You can get it 56 times, 8 times. And then the answer will be 56 to be remainder 4. Then you add 0 to that 4, 40. So how many times can we get 7 out of 40? 5 times. So that will be 35. Then in 50 again. In 50 again, remainder will be 50 out of 40. Then you add 0 to that, remainder 5. So in 50 again, you can get it 7 times, and on like that. So the answer you got now, you can now add the symbol of percentage to it. Now, if you are looking for 2 decimal places only, you look at third digit after the decimal point and approximate it. So third digit here is 7. You approximate it, cancelling it. Then since it is up to 1, add that 1 to the 5. So this will become 42.86%. And that's the answer, 42.86%. That is 3 over 7 times 100%. All right. Also, this other example here, how did we arrive at 60%? Let's look at it. 3 over 5 times 100. That will be 3 times 100 divided by 5. That will be 300 divided by 5. So let's write it properly as a fraction. 300 divided by 300 here, divided by 5. So we write the answer, and it will be in percentage. 5 in 30, 6. Okay. Remain nothing. So 5 in 300, it will be 60. So 5 in 0, now write 0. 5 in 30, 6. Remain nothing. So you now move 5 in 0, then you put 0 here. Then that is 60 percent without any remainder. 60%. Now the third example here, we have 2 whole number 5 over 7. 2 whole number 5 over 7. So in this case, how do we get the percentage? Now, what you do is to multiply the mixed number up and get, an improper fraction. So you start by saying 2 times 7, 14. 14 plus 5, 19. That will be 19 over 7. Turn this one to 19 over 7. So let's see how we arrive at that. 19 over 7. 19 over 7 times 100 times 100. Okay, times 100, right? So from here, we go ahead and solve that as 1,900 divided by 7. 19 times 100 divided by 7, that is 1,900 divided by 7. So we now divide this one out and get the answer. Okay, 7 in 19. How many times can we get 7 in 19? 2 times. That will be 14. There remain 5. That 5, bring it here, it becomes 50 plus this 0. 7 in 50, 7 times, remain 1, because 7 times 7 is 49. Remainder 1. That one you bring it here with the last 0 to become 10. 7 in 10, then 1, then 0.4%. So that is that. Subject matter, conversion between decimal to fraction, fraction to percentage, and so on. Now we want to go on, and then we want to learn about the next conversion. The next conversion is conversion changing from decimal to fraction. We want to convert the decimal to fraction. Now what you do is you must identify how many digits after the decimal place. You must note how many digits you have after the decimal place. Then you use the numbers after the decimal place to be numerator, and then their position, their place value will be the denominator. If you have each one digit as having 10 place value, 2 digits 100 place value. So the number of place values, the place value becomes the denominator. The digits after the decimal points will become the numerator. For instance, let's look at this 0.62 here. That's the first example here, 0.62. How do we arrive at 31.5? Now let's check it out. Let's see how we get 31.5 there. Okay. Let's just use another fresh calculation to do that. So 31 divided by 50. How we arrive at that? That's what we want to know. So 0.62, there is no number before the decimal point, so everything becomes proper fraction. Our answer is going to be proper fraction. Now we have 6 and 2. You write 6 and 2. Now that 6 and 2 will be numerator. Then the denominator will be the place value of the 2 digits after the decimal. So if you take the position of the decimal as starting point, call it 1. Then this first digit and second digit, we have 2 place values, 0 and 0. So what you are going to have is 62 divided by 100. The decimal point represents the 1. That's where we are starting from. And the number of digits after the decimal point will determine how many zeros you are going to add to the 1. So this one becomes 62 divided by 100, which if you write it as proper decimal fraction, we may have something like this. Let me just insert the symbol so that we can have a proper fraction written out. So let me insert that. Okay, this is taking too long. Okay. All right, it's now ready. So we have 62 divided by 100. Now, 62 divided by 100 will be equivalent to, you now look at the result you have here. If it's not the simplest term, then you make it to become simplest term by dividing through by a factor. Now, the factor that is common to the two of them here is 2. So 62, from 62, we can get 2 out of 62. And get 2 out of 62. That will be 31. And then 2 out of 100 will be 50. And that is how 0.62 becomes 31 over 50. I think you get it now. Now let's look at the other example, 0.4. 0.4 will become, you now look at the number. There's no figure before decimal, it's 0. So the answer is going to be proper fraction. So we are going to have, starting from a decimal point, how many digits we have? We have only 1. That is 4. That will be 4 over, then you start from decimal points as, represent decimal point as 1. Then the place value of the digits are follows, just 0. You add 1 0 to that. We have 4 over 10. Now 4 over 10 will be simplified. We simplify 4 over 10, make it a lowest term, the lowest numbers. So 2, we have 4 divided by 10, and that will give us, if you divide through by 2, we have 2 divided by, let me write it properly inside there. That is 4 divided by 2, the answer is 2. Then 10 divided by 2, the answer is 5. So you have 5 here. And that's how we arrive at 2 over 5. Okay. Now 0.142, there's no number before the decimal point, it's 0. So we represent decimal point as 1 for the denominator. 142 will be the number on top. 142, okay, divided by, you represent the decimal point as 1. Then how many digits after the decimal point will be number of zeros you are going to add. So we have 3 digits, 1, 2, 3. And that's what we have. So we can now write it properly and make it to the lowest term. The lowest term it can have. So we have 142 divided by 1000. So we can simplify that. Here, you can see that we can divide through the numerator and denominator by 2 as well. So 142 divided by 2 will give us 71. That will give us 71. 140 divided by 2 will give us 71. And then 1000 divided by 2 will give us 500. And that is it. Now, the next example, we have 3 whole number and then 0.6. So we can turn that one also into decimal by using the same method. So since we have 3 whole number before the decimal, the 3 will remain. The 3 will remain before the fraction that follows. So the 0.6 will be converted into fraction. 0.6, that means we have 6 as the numerator, and then we have 1 starting from decimal point here. Decimal point will be 1. How many digits follows? Yeah, this 0 is not counted. 0 after last decimal number is of no value, so it doesn't count. So we now use only 1 digit. We now add 0 to that 1. We add 0 to the 1. So we have 6/10. Now you now make it to the simplest term, 3 whole number. Then 6 divided by 2, you can see that 2 is a common factor between 6 and 10. So we can add the simplest factors. 6 divided by 2 will be 3, and then 10 divided by 2 will be 5. So that's how we arrive at a 3 whole number 3/5. This can be also turned into an improper fraction. If you want to turn it to improper fraction, you multiply this 3 whole number by the denominator. Then whatever you get, you add it to the numerator. And that's what we are going to have as the new numerator for the improper fraction. The new numerator. So we have, for instance, 3 times 5, 15. 15 plus 3, 18. You now write 18 on top, and then you put the same denominator that we have before, 5. So 18/5. So these 3, they are the same. 3 whole number 6/10, 3 whole number 3/5, or 3 whole number 3/5, or 18/5. The 3 of them are equivalent, and the same thing is equivalent to 3.6 or 3.60. Now 3.60 is to just increase the number of decimal places. 3.6 is the same thing as 3.60. That is that's an example of a conversion of decimal to fractions. Now, what about changing decimal to percentages? Now, what do we do here is you move the decimal point until there is no more number. Then you multiply that, and you multiply that by 100%. Look at it here. We have 0.16. 0.16 is 16%. How do we get that? You multiply by the number of zeros after the decimal. That is 20. That means you are going to multiply by 100. You are going to multiply that by 100, for instance. So 0.16 multiplied by 100 will give you 16. And that is 60%. You now add a percentage to it. When you multiply by 100, you multiply it by percentage, 100%. So what it means is that 0.16 is the same as 16%, or 16 divided by 100. Now, if you want to convert it to fraction, it will be 16 divided by 100, which can be simplified further to be we divide through by 8. We have 2 divided by that is 25. Yes, that is it. If you simplify further, 16/100, for instance, let's do that. 16/100. If you simplify further, we have 16 divided by 100, which is equal to simplification. You can say divided by 4, then 25. If you divide 16 by 4, you get 4. Yes. So we get 25. 4/25. 4/25. Now, 4/25, the same thing as 16%, can be converted to 16%. 4/25 here, we can multiply that by 100% to give you the same 60% that we have here. Okay. So we have this. So the answer will give us the same thing as 16. 25 here, 1, 25 in 100, 4. 4 times 4, 16. So we can get it back at 16% that we have there. 16%. So the same thing is applicable to these other examples. We have 2 decimal places here. So that means we are multiplying it by 100. And that is 0.24 times 100. That is 4%. Here we have 1.42. We have a 1.42 multiplied by 100. That is 142%. Here we have 0.007 times 100. If you multiply it by 100%, then we are going to have 0.7%. That is a changing decimal to percentages. So how to change decimals to percentages. Now, what about changing percentages to decimals? Changing percentages to decimals. Here, we want to convert the percentages back to decimal. If you have something in percentage, then you divide that number by 100 to get it in decimal. So we have an example here, 27%. So we have equivalent of that will be 27 divided by 100, and the answer is 0.27. 157% will be 157 divided by 100. And that's 1.57. 4.09% is 9 divided by 100. And then that will give us 0.0009. 8% is 8 divided by 100. And that is 0.08. That is simple and straightforward. Changing percentages to decimal. Now, apart from that, we can also change percentages to fraction. And change percentages to fraction. Now, what you do is to, first of all, convert the percentage to fraction. We change the number of the percentage and use 100 to divide that. Then you simplify it. Use 100 to divide it, then you simplify. For instance, 5% is 5 divided by 100. So if you simplify it, you have 1 over 20, like we have here. 5 here, 1, 5 in 100, 20. Now for 48%, for instance, it will be 48 divided by 100. And that is if you simplify it, you divide through by 4. 4 in 48, 12. 4 in 100, 25. That would be 12 over 25. That's 48%. The same thing, 0.3% will give us 0.3 divided by 100. That will give us 3 over 1,000. 3 over 1,000. Notice this is not 3 divided by 100, but 0.3, because the initial number is less than 1. So it goes like that. So it is that decimal number divided by 100 that we convert. And that will give us 3 divided by 1,000, because 0.3 is actually 3 over 10. So the same thing goes for the last example here. Last example, 1.15%, and that is 115 divided by 100. 115 divided by 100. So if you simplify it, you can divide it through and then simplify it further. Okay. If you divide it by 5, this is a error. We divide it through by 5. We have 23 over 20. 23 over 20. We divide it through by 5. Yeah, that is it. So that's how to convert between percentages to fractions. Now, we have exercise. So go ahead now and convert these few numbers, significant figures and decimal places. Then we are going to stop here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share as well. So that's that for today. See you when we post another lecture later.